So, how much is enough? This one is about game collecting and about collecting in general. So, let's imagine this following scenario. You have amassed a massive game collection, a massive gaming backlog, but eventually many of you end up asking yourself, how much really is enough? Do you really need all these games, figures, movies, CDs, or whatever you are into? Let's find out. Chapter 1. Focus. So the first thing you need to do is to relocate your focus, since it's more than likely you've lost it, at least once during your collecting years. It's okay thing to admit it, and it happens often. Social media and the fear of missing out are powerful tools and lead you to the path that you may not even realize it's not your own, even though you thought it was. I say it again, it's okay to have lost your focus, but right now we are here and we're trying to find it again. So, review your collection by one item at a time. Try to remember, when was it last used, if ever? Will it ever be used? Did you even remember having it? Would you miss it if you didn't have it, or if it was lost during house fire or something like that? Try to remind yourself, what was the reason for getting this item? Was it your personal nostalgia, a fear of missing out a great experience, a recommendation from someone, or just a matter of too good deal to pass by? Remember that you don't have to collect and experience everything, only those things that strike true to you. Finally, review your collection. What does it say about you as a collector and as a person? Does your collection correspond to your personal gains as a collector? By that I mean, if you have been seen as a retro game collector, you may want your collection to correspond to that statement. You may also want to review your console choices, your past, present, and future game choices, so that they support the line you've been chosen. And if you want to be seen as a modern game collector, with the state-of-the-art gaming consoles, and with the hottest and trending games, then that's where your focus should be. Chapter 2. Time to draw the line. Now that you have your focus narrowed down, the next thing you need to do is to make sure that your focus is there in the future too. The easiest way for that is to set up some concrete space for your collection, for example a drawer or a shelf, and if your collection grows beyond that, you have to review it again and sell something out. You may want to start out with some larger space and narrow it down later down the line, if you feel comfortable with it. Just make sure to start out slow, but be disciplined enough to maintain your progress in the future. Once you have set up a realistic space for your collection, it is always a manageable display of your personal tastes as a collector. You may find yourself picking up titles you haven't touched in years, since they are now more accessible than, well, years ago. That's because your collection is now a solid, a fixated order of your game collection and your tastes. Chapter 3. Letting go of clutter. Now that you have set up a space for your collection and you have your focus relocated to suit up your personal tastes, it's time for a final step. It's time to lose the excess, those titles that are taking up your shelf space and preventing you from enjoying what truly matters to you as a gamer. I mean, just be honest with yourself. Ask if you have a 40 hours long RPG game, however good it is, are you really ever going to replay it again? Or even play just one time if you haven't even opened it yet? And if it happens like 5 or 10 years from now, is the game really worth keeping around, collecting dust on a shelf for that long time? Another big revelation for me was the availability issue. You know, the thing that you keep telling yourself that you can't get rid of something because it's so rare. I got a news flash for you people. Only few games are really that rare that you'll never get them back if you sell them or trade them. It's true that there may definitely be need to pay more bucks, more money, in order to get the game back, and dedicate much more time to refinding the title from the internet or from local game stores. But if you are really willing to replay the game, if you really want to experience it again, you'll most likely be willing to do that and put up the extra effort for it. And it gets even better than that, because the payoff is so much better when you finally find the title you've been looking for. You know, that one game that you've longed to replay, but you find it from the local game store or from some online site that's selling games. You don't get that kind of payoff when you just pick the game from your own shelf, where it has been resting for 5 or 10 years, covered in dust and longing to be played. No, actually, I think you'll feel some kind of strange guilt about it, because if the game is actually great, you'll ask yourself the questions like, why have you been putting off this great gaming experience for so long? Why haven't you picked up the title earlier from your shelf? I don't know. But it's worth noting out that during this age of official and of unofficial retro games and retro game console releases and remakes, there's often a way you'll most likely be able to play those rare games in some format or another, if you really want. Once you've gone through these excuses, you're ready to declutter. And don't get me wrong, I haven't decluttered everything. I still have 30 physical games or so in total for my 6 systems of game consoles. I also have a lot of digital games downloaded in my console's hard drives, so they add up to that number also. Those games that I have kept are the titles that I constantly replay or I'm looking to revisit again. Those are my favorites. You should always keep those around, but lose all the excess. You'd be surprised how fast you forget about these excess titles. You know, these titles that you've decluttered that are considered an excess for you. It might take a month or so and you even forgot about ever owning that title. Until some random day you ran into that same title in a flea market or in a local game store, and you remember that, oh yes, I once owned that title a long time ago, but it never was a game for me. But that's the moment when you can make the choice. That's the moment when you can decide that this time I'm gonna give that game a second chance, and it may prove me wrong, that prove that this game this time is a good title for me to pick up. Or you may feel yourself lucky that you have decluttered that title from your collection a long time ago, and you have your collection now snappier and better than ever.